By the time Hercules strangled the Nemean lion with his bare hands, Hera had already won something. Not the lion, not his death. Something more precise than that. She had won the proof that the labors were working, that every impossible task Eurystheus assigned was doing exactly what she designed it to do. Not kill him, push him further, make him carry more, make him become something that could not exist in any world without cost. This is not the story you were told. You were told Hera hated Hercules because Zeus slept with another woman. You were told this was jealousy, divine, petty, eternal jealousy. The goddess scorned, the stepmother who could not let go. That version is easier. It requires nothing of you. It explains nothing about the cosmos the ancient Greeks actually believed in. The truth the sources give us is stranger and, I would argue, more disturbing. Hera did not hate Hercules the way a wounded person hates the one who hurt them. She had a purpose for him, and that purpose required him to suffer. Specifically, completely, and for a very long time. By the end of this video, you will understand why the goddess of marriage chose a demigod son of her unfaithful husband as the instrument of something that had nothing to do with revenge. This is where it starts. Before Zeus, before the world, as the Greeks understood it, had fully settled into its shapes, there was a principle that governed everything divine, a principle so fundamental that even the Olympians, even the king of the gods himself, could not violate it without consequence. Order, not morality, not justice in any human sense. Cosmic order, the arrangement of things as they were meant to be, the hierarchy that kept the divine world from collapsing into itself. Hera was not simply the wife of Zeus. She was the goddess of marriage, which meant she was the embodiment of the binding oath, the sacred contract that held civilization together. Every marriage in ancient Greece was made under her name. Every violation of that oath was a violation of something she personally represented in the fabric of the cosmos. When Zeus deceived Alcmene, when he took the form of her husband Amphitryon and fathered a child in her bed, he did not merely betray his wife. He violated the institution Hera herself embodied. He made the goddess of sacred marriage the symbol of its most fundamental betrayal. Pindar understood this. Diodorus Siculus understood this. The ancient sources are not telling us about a jealous wife. They are telling us about a divine principle that had been structurally compromised, and what that principle was forced to do in response. Hera could not undo what Zeus had done. The child existed. The demigod existed, half mortal, half divine, a living proof that the boundary between the human and the divine could be crossed, that an oath sworn under her name could be broken by the very king of the gods without consequence. She had two choices: destroy the proof or use it. She chose to use it. Here is the detail that changes everything. The one the simplified version almost always leaves out. The name Heracles does not mean what most people think it means. It does not mean glory of Hera in the sense of a tribute paid to a goddess by an admirer. It means something far more specific and far more uncomfortable. Heracles means, through Hera, glory is achieved, not despite her, through her. The ancient Greeks who named him understood something that the modern retelling loses entirely. The suffering Hera imposed was not incidental to the glory. It was the mechanism of it. There is no hero without the impossible obstacle. There is no Heracles without Hera. Pseudo-Apollodorus records the full sequence of her interventions. The delay of the birth, the madness sent through Lyssa, the labors engineered through Eurystheus, as a single continuous project. Not a series of impulsive acts of hatred, a project. something with architecture. And when you look at it as a project, the logic becomes visible. Hera needed Hercules to be tested in a way that no mortal and no god had ever been tested. Not because she wanted to destroy him. If that were the goal, there were simpler methods available to an Olympian goddess. But because she needed him to become something specific. Something that would answer, definitively, the question his existence had forced onto the cosmos. Could the son of Zeus, the product of a violation of divine order, become something that justified his existence? Could the broken oath produce something that the cosmos could recognize as legitimate? The labors were not punishment. They were a trial. And Hera was not the prosecutor. She was the judge. Think about what the 12 labors actually are when you look at them together. The Nemean lion, a creature that no weapon could kill, in a valley that had been terrorized for years, strangled with bare hands, the pelt taken, the first proof, the Lernaean Hydra, a monster that regenerated faster than it could be destroyed, in a swamp that the Greeks associated with the boundary between the living world and the world beneath, defeated through intelligence, not strength alone. The second proof, the Cyrenian hind, a creature sacred to Artemis, untouchable by divine law, captured without harming it, returned uninjured, a proof that he could operate within divine boundaries even while being tested beyond human ones. The Erymanthian boar, the Stymphalian birds, the Augean Stables. Each labor adds a different dimension: strength, intelligence, restraint, cunning, endurance, humility. Because what is cleaning 30 years of cattle filth, if not the most deliberate destruction of pride imaginable? Hera did not choose these tasks randomly through Eurystheus, the frightened man hiding in his bronze jar. The ancient sources give Eurystheus the function of the instrument, the terrified official who delivered the orders. The architecture behind the orders belongs to something larger. The labors taken together build a complete being. Every dimension of what it means to exist at the intersection of human and divine. Tested, proven, and recorded in the living memory of Greece. This is not what a goddess consumed by jealousy designs. This is what a cosmic principle, violated and then forced to respond, designs as its own correction. There is one moment in the mythological tradition that makes this reading almost impossible to ignore. After the 12 labors, after everything Hera had imposed, after Hercules had descended into the underworld itself and returned with Cerberus on a chain, Hera gave him her daughter, Hebe, the goddess of youth, eternal companion on Olympus. If this were a story about jealousy, about a scorned wife who wanted the child of her husband's betrayal destroyed, it ends with his death, with the proof erased, with Hera vindicated by absence. It does not end with a divine wedding. The reconciliation the ancient sources describe is not sentimental. It is structural. The trial had concluded. The verdict had been rendered. The demigod who should not have existed had become something the cosmos could accommodate, something that had earned its place in the divine world through a proof so complete that even the principle he had violated could recognize it. Hera did not forgive Hercules. That is the wrong word, and it belongs to a different kind of story. She acknowledged what the trial had produced, and that acknowledgement, in the logic of the Greek cosmos, was the only ending that made sense. The version of Hera you were given as a child was a villain, petty, jealous, cruel, without purpose. The kind of antagonist a simplified story needs to make the hero's suffering legible. The Hera the ancient sources give us is something more difficult. A force that operated with purpose inside a cosmos where every action had structural consequence. where a broken oath could not simply be forgotten, where a demigod born from violation could not simply be allowed to exist without being tested to the limit of what existence could hold. She made his life what it was. Every impossible labor, every creature he was sent to face, every moment where he had to choose between the divine capacity inside him and the human cost of using it. She made him Heracles, not despite everything she did to him, because of it. That is the detail the myth preserves, quietly, in the name itself, for anyone willing to stop and read it. Next, Hercules descends into something older than the labors, older than Hera's design, older than the gods themselves. The Augean Stables, where the task is not a monster to kill, but a proof of a different kind entirely. A labor that looks like humiliation and turns out to be one of the most strategically brilliant solutions in all of ancient mythology. If you have been watching this series from the beginning, thank you. The comments on every episode have been part of this. If this is your first video here, the full story of Hercules starts at episode 1, and it goes much further than anything you have seen before. Subscribe and come back for what comes next. There is a question I want to leave you with. Not about Hera specifically, but about the logic she represents. If the suffering imposed on someone becomes the exact mechanism through which they achieve something extraordinary, does that change how you understand the suffering? The ancient Greeks thought it did. I am not sure they were wrong.